Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to have you here. Just basically, not only so that we could catch up, but just, I love chatting together. I feel like when we met, I ran into an old family member.
Oh,
It was great. It was really
it,
great.
it was amazing. You and Annette, it was lovely, lovely spending time with you
Yeah,
guys.
yeah.
That reader studio,
Yes, at Reader Studio.
can't leave that part out.
Right. So, Christine, tell us a little bit about yourself. What is it that you do?
Oh, I knew I should have prepared something. Um, I am a writer. I don't even have my book here with me. Darn it! Oh yes, I do. Um, the book I'm most proud of is this one.
Uh, you mean this one?
Yeah. um, that's what I'm most proud of because that was the hardest one to write. I'm also a romance novelist and a witch and a mom and a corporate drone and what hat am I wearing today type of person. So
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, I mean, I feel like I've got insider information because I read the book, but I'd like to know kind of what inspired you to, like, just for the whole rest of the audience, what inspired you to become a writer? Because I know that you started off as like a professional ballerina at one point.
yeah, well, I my way worked my way up into in the I never got to ballerina status. Um, but I was in the corps and I did do some solos with the California Ballet Company down in San Diego, which unfortunately no longer exists. They they lasted 50 years, which is a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, and then okay, I started writing because my dad's a writer and he had over 350 novels published in his lifetime and over 60 nonfiction books published in his lifetime. And it was just one of those, you know, it's something, it was always in the background of my mind because I knew I could do it because my dad did it. He was home all day, every day, writing away. So if he could do it, I could do it. And it was a lot more interesting to me than sitting in an office, even though I've done that for many, many years. And so it's just, I started writing just, I mean, for with an eye to publication right around the time I turned 40. And 2 years later, I joined the Romance Writers of America, which really helped in so many ways.
And
I
why
can
why romance? Like, what was the draw to that particular genre for
I
you?
read it,
Gotcha.
and I mean I've been reading romance since I was 12. So and my dad would go to a used bookstore prior to birthdays and Christmases, and he look back then the Harlequin Presents all had a white spine, and so he'd go to the romance section and go, I'll take from here to there. And he'd buy like a yard of books for me. And so I just, it was something I knew, something that was comfortable with. And I never really stopped reading romance. Well, I did for a while in my early 20s, but I got over that phase and went back to it. Yeah, it was, and there are times when you read a book and you go, oh, I can do better than that.
Right.
That's a wall banger. But what really hooked me was Nora Roberts.
Hmm.
Her books are so relatable and so you get a real scooshy, happy feeling of satisfaction at the end of her books. And I really fell into that. So I started looking for her books, and this was back in early 80s. I started looking for her books on purpose, and then it just, you know, I want to do that. I want to do that because that makes me feel good. I want to make people feel good. So that's that's the how and
No,
why.
it's really cool. It's really cool. So now I'm curious because, you know, I've only read one book by you. I'm sorry to admit that, but
It's okay.
I'm more into the nonfiction side of things, when I read. But so like, do you kind of bring, I don't know why I'm kind of being prompted to ask you this, but do you kind of bring your witchiness into these romance novels, or are they just kind of like straight up?
Some of them I do.
Okay.
My first published novel was in 2011, which I started writing in 2008. My mom died in 2007, and I got really pissed off that she would never hold one of my books in her hands. So I started getting very serious about my writing in 2007. And so my first series, 2007, 2008, Twilight was big.
Yeah.
And all the vampires and the werewolves, and I didn't want to do that. But I wanted to do something in the paranormal world because you can get away with a lot in the paranormal world that you cannot get away with, say, in historical romance,
Correct.
because there is facts about historical stuff, and there are no real facts about paranormal romance. So you can make up whatever the hell you want,
Right.
which I
Right.
did. And so my Kane brothers books were born, and my heroes became a kind of a mixture of demon, human, and fairy. So they have all three bloodlines in them. They're kind of like the guardians of, in my case, Los Angeles, because I had them set them in LA. But they're this tribreds. These tribreds are scattered across the world, and they each have their own thing to do. And mine, I'm mainly focusing on LA because, you know,
You're
I'm
familiar
here.
with it. Right.
I'm familiar with it.
Right.
Um, and so, each one of them has to um, pull together the gifts and the challenges of each of their bloodlines in order to um, defeat the bad guy and win the girl, even though half the time the girl is working right alongside them. Usually in these books, by halfway through, you know they're together. There is no major third act. Oh, we can't be together. No, fuck that shit. Sorry for my cursing, but I
Totally
hate
fine.
that trope with a passion. And so I don't write that. I really try hard not to write that because I don't like it. It seems so manufactured, and that was one of the problems with writing romance to begin with, because um, I don't like I don't like conflict for conflict's sake. And in the early romances, it was all, something that could have been handled with a conversation.
Yeah, but they had to follow the formula of the storyline.
Exactly. Um, and so usually by halfway through, they know they're together, and then it's a matter of, and yeah, they're going to have disagreements of how you should get the bad guy. But after the first book, the hero and the heroine work hand in hand to defeat the bad guy. They can't do it alone. They have to do it together. So
That's like that
that's
divine feminine, divine masculine working together type of thing. Absolutely. It's
exactly.
really cool. So yeah, you do kind of weave it in. Now, you're a tarot reader, right? Or do you do
Not
tarot
for
more
the
for
public,
yourself?
but yes.
Correct. Okay, so you do have like knowledge of the tarot and stuff.
Yes.
So my question for this is like, Do you ever use the tarot to like create storylines or build like character rules or anything like that? Like, do you cross tools?
No. I use, well, let me put it this way. I've used it as a plot device
Okay.
in the book. Like the heroine will, she doesn't know what's coming, so she lays out 3 cards, and they're not good cards. So she sweeps it up, she um, shuffles the deck, lays them out again, same 3 cards, slightly different order. It's just, so in that respect, I do use the tarot, but I am not a plotter. I write by the seat of my pants. My characters pretty much tell me what the heck I'm supposed to be writing. And every now and then that bogs me down, and I have to at least know the beginning, the middle, and the end. And everything else is a surprise. So the beginning, they meet, something bad happens, they meet. The middle, all is lost. The end, and they went through. And that's pretty much my structure.
Yeah. Well, you know what it is too, and I mean, and I think I also do that when I'm writing too. There's an element of channeling that just kind of comes through and takes over. And no matter whether you prepare, you make an outline, it's always going this way. It never is the straight line.
Oh my! By the time I've finished an outline, I feel like I've written the book, so I'm not interested
Right.
anymore.
Right.
And so, in that respect, using tarot to plot my book doesn't work for me.
Okay.
It works for a lot of people, just not for me.
That's cool. That's cool. Now, I know we're going to have to mention eventually the elephant in the room.
I never heard him call an elephant, but okay.
Well, you know what it is? It's just like, I'm sensitive to the topic of, like, I don't want to, you're so much more than Scott Cunningham's little sister. Like, you see what I'm saying? Like, and I don't want it to be like that. Like, I want this to be about you and what you have to, contribute to humanity. But you did write about him. So, we got to talk about it a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. I have no problem with that.
So what like urged you to really get his story out there? I mean, I personally read the book and I felt like it was really, it was such a beautiful insight to how your family was and how you grew up, and I think it was a beautiful tribute to his legacy. And anybody that practices and reads his books, I feel like it gives that much more of an energetic connection to him. Like, it makes him feel, it made him feel more personable to me.
Yeah.
That I could kind of understand why he wrote about certain things he did, like why he was very much into, the earth spirits and the elements and all of those things, and how he connected because of how he lived his early years.
Yeah. I'm glad you said that, because that was my hope. That was my hope.
Achieved.
Yeah. Because when he died, social media did not exist the way it does now. I mean, it didn't. He was on a few TV shows. He was on Sally Jesse Raphael. And he did quite a few book tours. But there wasn't the mass reach out. You couldn't reach, the amount of people then that you can now with social media. So nobody knew who he was. They didn't get to know the snarky, sometimes cynical person behind all the books. And I could only convey so much of that. So there's the reason I wrote it was because I was the only one who could. You know, my parents are both dead. My mom, 2007, my dad died almost exactly 10 years later in 2017. My older brother, he left the house when I was 13. He got married at 19 and left the house. So it was Scott and I in my teenage years, together in the house, as while I was off doing ballet and he was off doing his thing. It was still the two of us. And I was at a pagan gathering in Florida in October of 2018. And I was giving a talk. They flew me out to give a talk about Scott and tarot, which was really kind of dicey because I'd only really been delving into tarot for like 10 months. So that was kind of good. But in my talk about Scott, I showed some of the fiction books he wrote and The Kitchen Witch that my grandmother had made for him that I got after he passed away. And I had so many people coming up to me later saying, thank you so much for telling us about the person behind the books. And then the people started saying, you're going to write a book about him, aren't you? And it's like, because they knew I was a writer because I had my novels to sell there. I was like, I hadn't planned on it. And they're going, oh, yeah, you're going to write a book, right? And at the end of the weekend, Drew Castle, who was the woman who encouraged the group to have me out, she sat me down rather sternly. And she said, you realize if you don't write this book, nobody will.
I feel like he was sending them all to you.
Yeah. And so that was kind of my, okay, all right. And 2018 was a really rough year for me. Not only was it all of the you know dealing with my dad's, 2017 was dealing with my father's death. He died in March of 2017. And 2018 was a really stressful fiction writing year. It was a bad anthology situation I'd gotten into, and there's some bullying going on, and it was really, by the end of the year, I was mentally and emotionally exhausted from dealing with it. And so the last thing I wanted to do was write fiction. The absolute last thing I wanted to do. So in 2019, I started writing Scott's book, and it took me 4 years. It's not something you could just sit down and say, okay, I'm going to do 5,000 words today. It didn't work that way. I would sit down and get a title for a chapter in my mind, put the title at the top of the page, and then just start writing about that topic. And whatever came out, came out. And when I was done, I was done. And sorry about the lighting. And I just, I walked away.
It feels like it was, it feels like it was something that, it was cathartic for you because you almost, it almost, like the way it reads, it pulls you in, that like the reader's almost a member of your family, which I loved. But I feel like as I was reading it, it was a cathartic and healing experience for you at the same time.
Yeah, it was. I cried a lot. I still cry at some points when I read those words, which is to be expected, I suppose. It was. It went through some really odd uh, stages. I sent it to my older brother for the first look-see, and he arranged it in chronological order. And so then I added to it, what's going on, son. And then I had somebody else look at it, and they said, yeah, this isn't, I mean, it's a good read, but it's not really interesting, and I don't think you're gonna, good luck finding a home for it. Is basically what they said. And so that's when I pulled back and I sent it to friends of mine, say, help. What do I need to do to make this work? And Beverly Frabel said, she was amazing. I don't know if you've met her. She's down in Florida. She's amazing. She said to me, I love what you've got going, but what about putting in some of his numerology, and what about his astrology, and and I thought, okay, well, I don't know any numerology. Who am I going to get to do that? And she said, well, you should ask Nancy Hendrickson. And I said, well, we're Facebook friends, but we've never met. and and she said, oh, go ahead and ask. It doesn't hurt to ask. And Nancy was so willing to do it. And then I thought, well, astrology wise, I'm going to ask Annabelle when, because I'd actually met her once, and she was thrilled to be asked. And so that really helped shape the book. And then another friend of mine, Amber Highland, who is the owner and editor of the Cartomancer magazine,
Okay.
She said, hey, you've got a lot of stuff in here about your family, but it doesn't relate to Scott. You might want to think about pulling some of that out. So I said, okay, you're right. I need to pull that out. So I pulled out about 20,000 words.
Wow.
And yeah, I saved it. It's, for another project maybe. And rearranged and added another 10, 15,000 on some parts I was just beefing up the sections, and other places I added new sections. Like I added a whole cooking section that got taken out. That's fine. That's fine. And then I was like, okay, this is like my eighth revision. And then I did the Southeast Tarot Conclave with Diane Brent Wilkes. It was an online one. And I got to do a tarot round robin with, oh God, I had her name just on the tip of my tongue. Jenna Matlin.
Okay.
And another gal who I don't remember. And I asked, so we read for each other, and I asked her when, I need a date. When should I send out a proposal for my book? And this was in March. And she said, she pulled cards, and basically June 1st. And I said, okay, I will aim for June 1st. And I did get it out in June 1st. But then I started putting the proposal together. And let me tell you, having it in chronological order made that first chapter so boring. Nobody would have picked it up. Nobody. So I pulled it apart and I put it back in the order that I had written it in, which is exactly the way, the way it is now. And because it needed an emotional flow. It needed the highs and the lows and the even outs, and it needed all of that. And then I put by that time I had a lot of people offer, and I asked people to give me their insights on Scott and how he affected their lives, and had a lot of those in. So I put those at the end, and I felt I had a strong enough proposal, and I sent it out on June 1st.
That's awesome. And here it is. But
Yeah.
now, so I had a question kind of going through this that like, did Scott ever use the tarot? Because I don't really remember any references that he even really had to it.
Um, it's there if you look for it. It's in the art of divination.
But it wasn't like something. It didn't seem like it was something prominent that was like a big part of his
No,
practice.
it wasn't. It wasn't his focus. And interestingly enough, he gave me my first tarot deck, which was the the JJ Swiss.
Yes.
Yeah, it was that one. And the artwork, I never delved into it. I just never did. So no, I have very very little memory of him and tarot, to be honest.
Yeah, I feel like he was a lot more into like connecting with the earth and Mother Nature and the elements, and
Yeah.
that's definitely.
And I think because he didn't have such a big footprint on tarot, that made it easier for me to get into it, if that makes sense.
No, it does. It does, because then you could kind of make your own way and you could put your own stamp on it.
Yeah.
Makes sense. So how long have you like really been reading? What do you use it for? Like I love like asking questions. I think like, well, besides my friend April, but we talked more about astrology when she was on. Like, I really haven't gotten like into the nitty gritty with like another tarot reader and like started like asking questions. So you're the first.
It goes in waves, as most things do in my life. At some points, I am religious. I'm pulling a card every day and journaling, and other times I'm not. Um, Sometimes I'll use it to figure out, what should I really getting an answer that I know I'm going to get, but just to sort of
Verify it.
exactly.
Yeah.
Um, and I use the pendulum in the same way, just to sort of verify that I know what is right and what isn't. Um, so, I'm surrounded by tarot decks. Winnie the
I
Pooh.
was gonna say the Winnie the Pooh is your favorite, right? At this point, for currently.
Well, currently, well, it's one of my favorites. I really, really enjoy it, but I also love the Wiser
Yes.
tarot. This is this is my everyday go-to deck. But I've also fallen in love with
Oh yes, I have seen that one.
it. Is so beautiful. It is so
Yes,
good.
the artwork is
Um,
gorgeous.
it really is. Ethne Dawn's Cosmic Wisdom Tarot is beautiful. It's one of my favorites. Um, my desk is such a mess. I'm just not even. You see my bookshelves behind me? Okay, double the amount of confusion and put it on my desk.
Oh my gosh.
Um, yeah. So it, it's very much a part of my life. And like I said, how I use it varies. I, for some reason, I'm more inclined to use it in the darker months and starting now, and not so much in the spring and summer. I don't know why.
I think there's like a cozy vibe to it, but then at the other
Yeah.
time, and the other respect, if you think about it, I mean, well, around Beltane, the veil is just as thin as well as it is around Samhain, but I think that there's something about the Samhain season, and we're going into it.
Yeah.
We're like a couple days away,
Yeah.
so
Well, and frankly, for a lot of people, there is no veil. I think it's something we made up to make ourselves feel better.
Possibly. That's true.
You know, seriously, because I know people that there is no veil ever, and it's hard to disagree with that.
Yeah. I mean, and that's the thing too, because it's kind of what we're taught. You know what I mean? And that's all the information that we have to really go on is what's been passed down. And I mean, I could believe that because, you know, it's I I think possibly at one time maybe there was a veil, but I keep hearing about how it keeps getting thinner and thinner and thinner, and that's possibly because of this ascension that we are moving towards. You know,
Yeah.
because it I'm definitely be getting more sensitive as the days go on, and it's shocking and humbling and exciting all at the same time.
A little scary.
Yes.
A little scary. But yeah. So it's the right. I'm glad summer is almost over. Heat wise, especially. Um well, I don't remember who it was. It was somebody said for them spring started on February 1st. Um Summer started June 1st or May 1st. Um Autumn starts, I think, August 1st.
Yes.
And and then winter starts
November 1st.
November 1st. Yeah. And I have a hard time disagreeing with that. You know,
Perception
I
is reality.
yeah. So it feels like even though we're in September, it feels like autumn really started back in August when it was blistering hot.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like autumn.
I know. And it's like it's so weird because this year is like the first time that I'm I'm in this mode, and I just literally I feel like the days are going so fast. Like
Yeah.
usually I have all my Halloween stuff up and I'm already all like spooked out in my house by like September 1st. Usually I'm like, September 1st, everything's coming out. And I'm like, I'm sitting here and I'm like, oh my God, today's like the 20th. And I didn't even think about taking anything out this year. And it's really weird because I also have this kind of feeling of like, I live Halloween every day. Like I live, you know, I breathe it now, you know, that it's like, why am I going to decorate? Like,
That's where I was last year. I last year was weird for me. I could not get in the right mindset, I guess.
I just think it's but I'm definitely in the mindset, but it's almost like, do I really want all the clutter and confusion? Like
Yeah.
that's where I am. I'm like, I light candles all around my house every day and burn incense and wear black and like, you know, I'm living Halloween, you know. So
It okay, so here's another
go ahead.
question. When do you celebrate Samhain?
On the astrological Samhain.
Yeah, I at first when I first heard about the astrological Samhain, I kind of got up in arms. I was like, but that's not but as I'm separating the joy of Halloween and the kids and the dress up and the spooky bats and the cats and the pumpkins and the all of that from honoring the ancestors and um and and honoring Samhain, it's made it easier
Yes.
for me
Yes.
because I'm not trying to cram everything into one night.
Yes, exactly. One year I was like, all right, we're going to do it all on, you know, we're going to have the dumb supper and we're going to do this and we're going to do that. And the doorbell keeps ringing. And I'm like, and then I found out about astrological Samhain and I was like, this is so much better,
Oh,
you
it's
know, and
so much better.
so much better. And when you start studying about the movement of the date, and who was behind it and in charge of it and why it was done, you're all like, yeah, no, astrological, thank you. You know, so
Yeah.
there's a lot there too. And when you are celebrating and you're not celebrating on the right day, there you are doing something with the energy. That's you're giving your energy to another cause. You know.
Well, I mean, I go back and forth on that too, because, you know, when's the right day? You
Right.
know, I mean, I honor my ancestors year round.
I do. I every day. Yeah, every day.
Yeah. So,
Very true.
so
Today's my
it's,
grandmother's birthday,
oh,
so
happy birthday,
yeah,
Grandma. That's cool.
yeah. So I got up and lit a candle for her today.
But, you know, I mean, it's dates are so arbitrary.
Yes.
Even when you add the stars in, they're still arbitrary
Right.
dates.
Time is
So
an
it's,
illusion. Like honestly.
yeah. So, I mean, I know it has to be more than just intention, and it has to be more than the right date. Um, but if I mean, you're not doing it wrong if you don't do it on the right date,
Correct.
you
And
know?
you're right. And it has to work for you. I mean, like I mean, my tarot master, he was like, "There's only one rule. If it works for you, then it works." You know.
Yeah.
So it's to each their own. But when you start understanding the history
Yeah.
and why certain dates are the way they are and why they were moved and who they were moved by, kind of gets you a little agitated. That's all I gotta say.
Do you have a reference book
For what?
when you were talking about learning about the history of who moved the dates and why?
It's just basically it's interesting because I always felt like I was like guided into information and things were just kind of like, well, this was the date originally and then the church decided to move it for and I can't even really remember
Okay.
where it was, but it was like multiple sources were writing about it, and it was like they were moving, and it's basically it was the way to move pagans away into Catholicism and
Yeah.
brush it away. So they would take certain holidays that were pagan feasts and they would meld them and move them and,
Yeah.
from there. So then they got to a point where it was like, oh, well, I can't go to my pagan festival because I have to go to this. But I'm still celebrating, so I'll go to this instead of the pagan festival.
Right.
And then over time, it just kind of mushed together.
Yeah, that's true. That is very true. You know, it's interesting to me that speaking of astrological uh, dates, that Easter changes.
Yes. So
You know.
Easter, yeah, and that's a weird one because okay, wait a minute, we're not going to really follow any pagan rituals, but we're going to base Easter around a full moon, you know, and um, the Passover does the same thing. Passover moves
Yeah.
as well, and it all moves on the basis of um, and it's some kind of weird calculation. I don't know it off the top of my head, but I believe it's like the first full moon after another holiday or another event. And then that is what, and then it's like a certain time frame from that.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, how do we get on that
I don't
topic?
know. It's your fault. You asked me if when I celebrate Samhain.
Sorry. Yeah, my fault.
But it is rather interesting because everybody has a different kind of perspective on it, and it's all what works for everybody, which I think I actually like.
Yeah.
Walking away from the structure of the Roman Catholic Church, I
Oh, yeah.
you
I
know
can see that.
yeah I feel so much more at home in my body and at peace with decisions,
Yeah.
you know.
Uh, I we grew up Methodist, which when I was a kid was very much um, home and family and kids everywhere and potlucks and how are we going to help our town and you know that kind of a thing.
More
Um,
communal.
yeah, it was much more communal than it feels like it is now. I haven't been to a Methodist church in over a decade, so I don't know. All I know is that it's splintering again, um, and that's really all I care to know. Uh, but as well, I really enjoy those in the community who do take um, leadership roles, like Byron Ballard. Um, I don't know if you know her. If you don't, you need to follow her.
Okay.
She is coming out with a book. I think it comes out this. I don't know. I don't know if it's this fall or in January, but it's called The Feral Church,
Okay.
and I've read it. It is amazing. Uh,
Okay.
it's like it's like it's like a set of sermons and meditations and taking you by the hand and walking you through history and none of what I said is what it really is. I can't even begin to describe it to you, but those people like her who take leadership roles, like Irene Glass, who take leadership roles in the witchy community, are so necessary.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Oh, it says here, Feral Church comes out in January of 25.
oh yay, yay! Thank you, Amber. Thank you. Um, but we need people like that, and I'm not saying that we need to have one huge pagan organization because that will never
No.
work. But we
And
do
because
need,
there's so many of us that have religious trauma
yeah.
that we don't want anything organized.
Um, I think if I were to do any of that, it would be through cups. Uh, community. I don't know what that stands for, but it's like a pagan church. Um, and the people who work within that structure are very important from what I have observed from people who have been in. So I haven't observed it firsthand, but it just, I think, no, I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to go there.
Yeah, we are. I think we are going to post this. So yeah, don't go there.
Yeah, no, I'm not going to go there. But I, there is so much work that needs to be done that cannot be done in the structures that we currently have.
Yeah.
And as if you follow Byron at all, the tower has fallen, and now we are looking to the star to rebuild.
Mm-hmm.
And that is, so it's how can you take your energies and your beliefs and your love and create something that will help the world, or just pour your energy toward something that maybe somebody else is already doing that you can help them with. Or maybe it's just, going down to the soup kitchen and working, or maybe it's writing. Um, um, I don't know, but it's, it, we need that. And I wish, I had the, I don't know, who say, the gumption, the energy, the will to step up and do something like that. I'm not there, and I don't think I ever will be, but it's been teasing in the back of my mind. But I wish more people could step up and could become leaders within the community, whatever community you're in.
I think the time is coming, but we're not there yet.
No.
That's where my belief is that, there will come a time where that is warranted in that space, and we're on the precipice of that space, and
I hope.
that's the hard part, because we're at the prefaces, the precipice going,
Yeah,
and we're right there.
we're all holding our breath until
We
after
are.
November.
We are.
That's gonna be the hard
Yeah.
part.
And astrologically, I mean, I'm not going either way here, but I like to watch those astrological like forecasts, and where this planet's going to be in this month, and what that happened in that time period the last time it was there, and I'm like,
right.
okay, what am I doing? How am I preparing for this? Like, I mean, it's wild.
Yeah,
It's
it
wild.
is.
It's wild. And and that's one thing that, like, I try to approach these world issues. It's because it's not just here. I try to approach these world issues from an astrological perspective that makes me a little bit more emotionally stepped back.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, you're starting to realize that these issues and these things happening are bigger than we are.
Yeah.
And as much as we think we're in control of them, we're not. So it's like, I just got to chill out and walk away. Like, I was like, you know what? I'm done. Like, I don't watch TV. I don't pay attention to the media. I'm like, like, hear no evil, see no evil, speak no evil type thing. Like, I just don't want to, why would I waste? Because that's like energy vampire thing. Like, why am I giving my energy to that?
Right. My husband has always, whenever I'm upset about something, or, worried about the state of the world, or, he'll say something like, well, in 100,000 years, is anyone going to care?
In 100 years, nobody's going to care.
Well, I mean, we still read Shakespeare.
Right. Well, what I'm saying is about us individually. Like, you ever see that thing, like 100 years from now, somebody else is going to be living in your house, and your car is going to be gone, and
the house probably won't be here.
Right.
That his point was the planet takes care of itself.
Absolutely.
We're just a bunch of ants on the surface.
Yep.
So it's a matter of the quality of life that you have while you're here, and how you can help other people. I really believe that.
Same. Yeah. And there's only, like, and that was like one of those things that, like, there's really only one commandment: love everybody and don't be an asshole. Like, that's it.
That's two.
Well, that's why I said and, like, but like, I mean, it's like, Eddie Vedder was like, yeah, don't be an asshole. I'm like, no, but you got to love everybody too.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, and that's what we learned in kindergarten. I mean, we literally learned that in kindergarten.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's also, love everybody, but some people keep at a distance and love them from a distance.
That's true.
Because you don't need them in your sphere.
Right. you love them from a distance.
Yeah.
So yeah. Love is the law.
Absolutely.
Thank you, April. Yep. It's true.
Yeah.
It's really true. I mean, and that's the other thing too. Like, when I was on this journey, this spiritual journey of, like, where do I really fit in? What is, the right religion for me? It's like, I read everything, and I'm like, this all comes down to love. This all comes down to self-respect, respect for others. Like, there's nothing else here. And everybody's just, like, saying it in their own way, you know? So, like, you're arguing over the same point, but you're calling it something different. Right. And you're arguing over who's right. You're all right.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I
Mm.
lost thought. It's just like, um, oh, community. You
Mm-hmm.
know, we need to, yes, yeah, we don't have to like people all the time.
Right. Yes,
Absolutely.
absolutely. Good point, Nikki.
But it's like it's that community that's so important. It's like when we go to places like Reader's Studio, it's the community of people that we can talk to. It's like
Yes.
that tarot's a shorthand language. It's like, oh, I'm feeling like such a king, such a fool's today. You know, I'm on the fool's journey today, or you know, whatever. But it's like a shortcut, and we feel at home with people, even people we don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And it's and yet I'm sitting in my house and I don't talk to my neighbors.
Same. Same.
Um, I tried when we first moved here 30 years ago. You know, I had people over, I had neighbors over so we could talk and meet people, and that didn't really go over very well. Um, the the people across the street had kids my age. Well, my kids were a little bit younger than theirs, and um, their father is English, so the kids speak with a slight English accent, which it was almost like a class difference. It was very bizarre. So the boys never got to play. They never played together, you know, which is sad because I always played with the kids in my neighborhood.
Yeah.
But what do you? How do we create community when people? I don't know.
I
When
think, and I think the sad part is that um, it comes down to one word. We're we're all in one big distraction.
yeah,
We're
yeah,
we're kind of dropped into a distraction of, okay, well, I mean, and that starts off in the 50s with keeping up with the Joneses. I have to have a better car. I have to have a new handbag. I have to have, oh, well, they changed the fashion, so I have to have that new fall color. Like, and then, it starts this whole chain of events that, we're working more, and then now we're detached, and now we're not spending time with family because we have to work or we have to do this. And we're putting all of these distractions in front of us. And it was like, I saw something this morning about it, and it's like, it's like we're all of these distractions are put in front of us, and devices and like divisive things and situations are created
yep,
so that we can stay separate and never come together and find out, bless you, see, it's true,
thank you.
that we could come together and find, and my grandmother used to say that, but that we could come together and find out all of our, what we're truly capable of with our gifts.
Yeah,
And that's what it is. We're so
yeah.
busy chasing our tails that we can't see the light.
The older I get, the less I chase. It's yeah, it's uh, uh, being busy for busy's sake is not healthy,
Absolutely.
and it's hard. I mean, even with conversations like this, how long it took us a long time to find a date to do this. It's not because we didn't want to.
Right.
Um, it's. I'm glad it's this time of year because I feel like the world is saying, okay, you're allowed to slow down. You're allowed to sleep in a little bit. You're allowed to take your time. You know, I work from home on Mondays and Fridays. I have to go into the office Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, unless I have something happen in my personal life where it's going to be easier to deal with all the stuff around my house, um, and work if I stay at home. You know, like I had Tuesday, I had appointments that I had to go to, and they were local to my house, and so it was just easier to stay home. Anyway, I find I'm more productive at home. I get more done. A lot of my work is editing work, data entry. I work for a hydrogeological firm. So we're a very small office, and I'm the office manager there. And we don't get public coming in. We never get people coming in. And why did I get on this? Oh, it's allowed me to slow down, to work from home. And if I have to work if I take a big chunk of time during the day off, I can work till 10 at night. It's not going to hurt anybody, and I'll still get my work done. I just wish, I don't know. I don't know.
I know what you're going to say. You wish you could wave a wand and fix it all.
Yeah, all the time. And to your point of keeping up with the Joneses, my brother and I cleaned out my father's house after he died. Now, they got into that house before I was born. So they were in that house from October of 1959 until 2017. Wow. That's a lot of time. And the things that we ended up either taking to the dump or taking to Goodwill, or the boxes and boxes and boxes and boxes of books that we
I knew you were going to say
library.
That.
My dad, he took, they had a 4-bedroom house, and when my brothers moved out, he expanded it. He took the wall between the two of the bed from his office and the bedroom, took that wall down and made it one big room. So he had 2 closets. Well, he took the doors off the closets and built bookshelves. And the bookshelf on this side had all of his books, all of copies and copies and copies of his multitude of books. And so the library was thrilled to get those. They put some, I think they put 1 or 2, probably just 1 copy of a lot of his books in the library, and then they sold the rest. So that was a good deal for them. But my point is, we accumulate so much stuff that we don't need, because we think we do. But we don't. I mean, I have so much incense in the corner over there. It's ridiculous.
Excuse me, and that's another thing. You got me started on Super Hit now.
I do not regret that.
No, and I don't either.
I love Super Hit. I don't have any right now, so I'm doing Nag Kappa. But yeah, I'm a Super Hit fan.
Yeah. I was well, I like Nag Kappa, but what is this Super Hit stuff? I go on Amazon. I'm like, must have. And then I got it, and I was like, oh,
right?
I totally feel you guys when I'm like, oh, it's like getting a hug from the 2 of you.
It's an amazing scent.
Yeah.
I highly recommend it to everybody. Yeah. Anyway. What else can we ramble on about?
I mean, it's been an hour already. I mean, we talked about a lot.
We did.
I'd love to have you back.
I'd love to come back.
Yeah, I think
being on the opposite coast of you is really silly. I don't like it. I would love to spend more time with you. So yeah, and feel free to call me anytime.
Absolutely.
You don't have we don't have to do it in front of the world.
No.
We can talk.
No, but I mean, I love, and I mean, this is just kind of like a passion project that I started, that, just helping promote other spiritual entrepreneurs or other entrepreneurs that have spirituality as part of what they do, and to just bring more light to everybody, to kind of create a community.
Yeah.
And I mean, we don't have many people that log on and stuff, but through the people logging on and logging off, and then once we, I like to take this, and then I'm gonna I'm going to have it live on Instagram, and then I found ways to download it, and I'll probably put it in like podcast form.
Cool.
And
Cool.
yeah, so that's what I kind of do. And also on YouTube. So it's kind of creating that little bit of a buzz for everybody. That's what my, my love for this is.
Oh,
That I want to.
well, I'm really glad you started it. This is
Thank
really
you.
cool.
Thank you.
I can't always watch when you are on because I'm working. Don't tell my boss, but but I'm really thrilled that you're doing this, and thank you so much for having me on.
Oh,
It's been
thank you.
lovely talking to
Thank
you.
you. Thank you. It was an honor to have you on. But thank you so much. And yes, we shall be chatting soon again.
Okay, thanks, Nicole. Have a great rest of your day.
You too. I love you. Mwah.
Bye.
Bye.